Very good evening to you and welcome to another edition of Primetime News coming to you live on TV1 Newsfirst. My name is Krishan Devasagaya.
And I'm Umitra Bekon. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
National program to issue land titles commences in Anuradhapura. President attends inaugural program. Court grants permission to detain and interrogate organized criminal Podilasi extradited from India. Pakistan declares open war against Afghanistan. Government should question any officer regardless of past record if linked to Easter attacks. A strong statement from Tissakuti Arachi. Report of the LOLC Divisavia school rebuilding project handed over to the Prime Minister.
President Kumara Dissanayake participated in the 3-month memorial almsgiving ceremony in Nelummala village today to honor those who lost their lives in a landslide in the area due to Cyclone Ditwa. The ceremony was held in the Pamunupura Batamulla Junior School in Nelummala.
The landslide triggered by Cyclone Ditwa claimed the lives of 31 individuals from 13 families in Nelummala village. The Anunayaka of the Askiri chapter of the Siam Mahanikaya, Venerable Narampanave Ananda Thera, together with members of the Mahasangha, were present at the almsgiving. The President also engaged in a brief conversation with the relatives of the victims and expressed his deepest condolences to them. Himikama, a national program to issue land titles, commenced in Anuradhapura under the auspices of President Kumara Dissanayake. The inaugural ceremony was held at the North Central Provincial Council Auditorium in Kurakahavavu, Anuradhapura. Under the Himikama program, farmers are being granted full ownership of lands previously held under permits and grants.
Previously, lands were distributed under programs such as Swarna Bhumi, Jaya Bhumi, Ratna Bhumi and Urumaya, but all came with conditions. While conditional grants were necessary to prevent land from falling into the wrong hands, we are now entering a new phase. Our government believes that land should be granted freely, allowing people to fully engage in economic activities without complex legal restrictions. I urge all beneficiaries not to sell the land that they and their children now own, as these deeds give them permanent ownership. The government will introduce other economic measures so that people do not have to sell their lands in order to survive.
The President also shared his views on the state of the country's economy.
We have taken a number of significant economic steps. The data shows that the best figures in Sri Lanka's history are now being reported. By rough estimates, we have been able to reduce our budget deficit to 2.4% by 2025. Specifically, regarding our primary account balance, we had enacted a bill to maintain it at 2.3%. I believe we can increase the primary account balance to 5.5% this year. This is very good data and it is important for our country's economy. After a long time, we have been able to keep interest rates on bonds and treasury bills to a single digit, below 10%. We have also maintained inflation at a level closer to 2.7%, which is below the 5% target that we have always aimed for. Looking at government revenue, we have earned an income exceeding 17%, the highest since 1996. This high level of economic performance is a positive path for us, which restores our confidence in our economy. The argument that the economy will fall in April is not because the economy is actually declining. It is being used to scare investors. That will not happen. I expect that the April collapse will be pushed back to September in the coming days. Every time investors do business, doubts and fear are created in a bid to drive them away. But I think that when we analyze all the information officially released by our central bank, the data from international organizations, as well as the data officially presented by our treasury, we have created an economy that is very stable. Our main expectation is to maintain these achievements. This is a great achievement and it is good. In the past, money would go to them before it came to the treasury. Otherwise, after it came, it would go to them. Now, all the ways in which money comes to the treasury have been cleaned up. There are still some areas that need to be improved. Therefore, we hope to use new technology. Using this new technology, every rupee that should be received by the treasury will come to the treasury. Every single rupee will indeed come to the treasury. The general public will be taken care of and the people will be represented well. That is why we allocated 500 million rupees towards the welfare of the people. Now, as we all know, for more than a decade, the Sri Lanka cricket team has failed to qualify for the semi-finals of any ICC tournament, including the World Cup. Why have our performances deteriorated with each passing year? Amidst this historic decline, what exactly has the country's cricket administration been doing while the nation's beloved team struggled to maintain its place on the global stage? Is Sri Lanka cricket today functioning with little to no accountability to those who hold its best interests at heart? Well, that is us, the citizens of Sri Lanka and the loyal fans of cricket.
Who really runs Sri Lanka cricket? In the past, this body was referred to as the Sri Lanka Cricket Board. Back then, the board was accountable to the public not only for how it utilized funds, but also for the victories the national team achieved. Members were even brought before parliamentary committees to answer for their actions, exercising the people's sovereign oversight. In 2003, the Sri Lanka Cricket Board was reconstituted as Sri Lanka Cricket, intended to function as an autonomous body under the International Cricket Council or the ICC, operating independently while upholding national cricketing standards. So, what exactly is Sri Lanka Cricket? It is the organization responsible for managing the sport across the country, overseeing financial and administrative matters, developing infrastructure, and enforcing legal and disciplinary regulations. According to its website, Sri Lanka Cricket operates under the direction of the Ministry of Sports with oversight from the National Cricket Authority, focusing on protecting the country's cricketing heritage. But has it really safeguarded that heritage? For years, the organization has remained dominated by a single faction. Even though some positions have changed over time, the same group continues to control key roles. The board comprises a president, 2 vice presidents, a secretary, an assistant secretary, and a treasurer, all elected. At present, those in power are chosen by a body of 147 voters, most of whom represent clubs, which means sports associations. President Shammi Silva is now in his 4th term, marking 7 years in office. Before becoming SLC president, Silva held various positions within Sri Lanka cricket. Many of the sports clubs with voting rights are allies or supporters of Silva. The Chief Executive Officer, who wields significant authority over financial and operational matters, is not elected but appointed. Ashley De Silva has held this position for over a decade. It is now painfully clear why the Sri Lanka cricket team has failed to reach the semi-finals of any tournament for more than a decade. Can Sri Lanka cricket be revived? Multiple attempts have been made, particularly over the past 2 years, to reform the sporting body and re-establish the sport. During President Ranil Wickremesinghe's tenure, a committee led by retired Supreme Court Justice K.T. Chitrasiri was appointed to examine Sri Lanka cricket. At the same time, a cabinet subcommittee was also established. The Chitrasiri committee submitted proposals to reform Sri Lanka cricket. However, there was little substantive difference between its recommendations and those of the cabinet Subcommittee. It was during this process the idea of amending the Sri Lanka Cricket Constitution gained traction. The draft was prepared by retired Supreme Court Justice K.T. Chitrasiri alongside President Counsel Harsha Amarasekara, Dr. Aditha Wickramanayaka, then President of the Chamber of Commerce Dubinda Hulangamua, Deputy Solicitor General Manohara Jayasinghe and Assistant Legal Draftsman Shamila Krishanti. This draft was submitted to the President and the Cabinet Subcommittee. It contained proposals to reform the cricket administration, including constitutional changes aimed at freeing the organisation from political influence and other interference. Under the proposals, the new board would consist of 18 members. Sports clubs would be completely barred from appointing members, including the President. 9 of the appointments would be made by the President of the Bar Association, the President of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, the Chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and one other individual. Among the 9 members they appoint to Sri Lanka Cricket, at least 5 should have international cricket experience. The remaining 4 would come from other professional fields. The remaining 9 appointments would be made by cricket clubs themselves. The Cabinet Subcommittee considered the draft and, on the 1st of January 2024, submitted 40 recommendations to then-President Wickramasinghe. So, what became of the plan to reform Sri Lanka cricket? The draft reached the Cabinet on the 29th of July 2024 as a unified submission from former ministers. Cabinet approval was also granted. Yet, despite all this, Sri Lanka cricket remains unchanged.
ඇත්තටම දුකයි මේකේ මෙච්චර මේ අකාර්යක්ෂම පරිපාලනයක් තියාගෙන මේක මිනිස් හරියට ක්‍රීඩකයෙක් හදන්න බැරිද කියන එක මේ ඇත්තටම ගේම් එක රීඩ් කරගන්න බැරිද කියන එක
එදා තිබ්බේ නෑ සූදුව සහ ක්‍රීඩාව එකට හැබැයි අද සූදුව සහ ක්‍රීඩාව එකට යන නිසා අපිට හිතා ගන්න බෑ ඇත්තටම මේ ගහන්නේ ක්‍රිකට්ද ඒ වෙනත සූදුවට ඕන විදිහට ක්‍රිකට් ගහනවාද කියන එක
අපි කණ්ඩායමට බැලලා වැඩක් නෑ කණ්ඩායම මෙහෙවන්නේ පාලක මණ්ඩලයේනේ පාලක මණ්ඩලයේ හරියට ඉන්න ඕනේ ඒ කවුරු හිටියත් ලීඩර්ස්ලා එක්කනාමයි ඒ කට්ටියමයි මෙහෙවන්නේ ඒකට චේන්ජ් වෙන්න ඕනේ
පාලක මණ්ඩලය ඇත්තට දැන් නම් විසිරවන්න ඕන විසිරලා අලුත් පාලක මණ්ඩලයක් ඇති වෙනවා මොකද කාලයක් තිස්සේ මේ කට්ටිය ඉන්නෝනේ නැත්තම් ඉතින් ওই විදිහටම ක්‍රිකට් තියේ කාලයක් තිස්සේ
අපේ ගම් වල ඉන්නවා ඊට වැඩිය හොඳ කොල්ලෝ හොඳට සෙල්ලම් කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ මෙතන තියෙන්නේ මේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩකයන්ගේ වැරද්දට වැඩිය මේ පාලක මණ්ඩලයේ මේ ඉන්නේ උන් තමයි මේ කොහොම කරන්නේ
එක්කෝ මේ ක්‍රිකට් පාලක මණ්ඩලයේ ඉල්ල අස්සෙන්න ඕනේ අඩු ගන්න ඒකට මේ අපෙන් සමාව ගන්න ඕනේ මේ කරන වැඩේ වීදම් කරන්න යනවා මැච් බලන්න අන්තිම රටේ සල්ලිත් නැහැ මැච් එක දිනන්නෙත් නැහැ හිතේ දුකෙන් එන්නේ
ක්‍රිකට් පාලක මණ්ඩලයේ මොන වාසි වරප්‍රසාද නිසාද දන්නේ පෙබුව පන්තියට පමණක් මේවා සීමා කරලා තියෙන්නේ. එයාලට නම් ක්‍රිකට් දිනුවත් එකයි පෙරදුනත් එකයි සල්ලි හම් වෙනවා.
ශම්මිලා ධර්මදාසලාට ඕන විදිහට තමයි මං හිතන්නේ මේ මැච් එක ප්ලේ වෙන්නේ මේ මං හිතන විදිහට මුල්ම පුරුක් වලින් තමයි මේක හදන්න ඕනේ.
Public anger, displeasure and also dissent, taking into account the recent results Sri Lanka cricket have been witnessing. Sri Lanka cricket is a religion in our country. The people, you and I, have watched this sport religiously through all of its peaks and valleys, and we have celebrated as one when our heroes on the cricketing field achieved the greatest feats and achieved and reached the pinnacle of this sport. But in recent times, can you recall an instance where Sri Lankan cricket fans were given something to rave about other than isolated instances? They say a fish rots from the head, and that is exactly what has happened to Sri Lanka cricket. The apex body that is responsible for managing and ensuring the progress and development of cricket in Sri Lanka seems to be losing its way, and it has been that way for many years. But there has now been a narrative that is created within Sri Lanka cricket, within the upper echelons of Sri Lanka cricket by those who are clinging on to power, saying that any sort of influence or any sort of interference within Sri Lanka cricket's dealings would lead to the ICC, the governing body of cricket for world cricket, would impose sanctions on Sri Lanka cricket. However, I'm sure even the ICC would agree that it is time for a competent set of officials to take the reins of the sport that you and I, and also fans from the world over, love and admire and praise. This is the ground reality. These are the sentiments of everyday people who watch this sport religiously, who have celebrated as one when Sri Lanka reached the pinnacle of world cricket. Are we going to allow a handful of power-hungry individuals to decline this sport and eventually let it fade into oblivion, or are we going to change its course, correct its course, and take Sri Lanka back to where it belongs on the global cricketing arena? For anyone who is willing to rectify this matter and take Sri Lanka cricket back to where it belongs, the people will always stand with you. Sri Lanka cricket knows no bounds. Sri Lanka cricket is a unifying force, not just in Sri Lanka, but across the world and in our region as well. The examples are plentiful. So, it is the opportune moment for us to make a change, to take Sri Lanka cricket out of this abyss and to make it and place it to where it truly deserves, and for us to take Sri Lanka cricket to the highest standards that it deserves to be on.
Investigative officers have been granted permission to detain and question Janit Madhusanka alias Podilasi for 7 days after he was produced before the Battegava Magistrates Court following his arrival to the island from India this morning.
Janit Madhusanka, a suspect in multiple drug trafficking and murder cases, was brought to Sri Lanka from India this morning. He had been arrested by the Indian security forces in Mumbai on the 16th of January 2025 while evading courts. Podilasi, who was brought to Sri Lanka this morning, was produced before the Battegava Magistrates Court. Podilasi, who was remanded on suspicion of murdering the former Ratkama Pradeshiya Sabha chairman Manoj Mendes in 2015, was released on bail by the Balapitiya Magistrates Court on the 9th of December 2024. He had fled to India while on bail despite a travel ban imposed against him at the time. Police stated that 26 cases are currently pending against Podilasi in court for various crimes committed since 2007.
In a developing story in the South Asian region, Pakistan struck major Afghan cities including Kabul and Kandahar after Taliban forces launched attacks along the Durand Line. The major military offensive is named Operation Ghazab Lil Haq. Now, as tensions flare, Pakistan's defense minister declared open war on the Afghan Taliban, while its prime minister says the country has the full capability to crush any aggressive ambitions.
Now, the death toll in the clashes since last night have not been independently verified yet, with both sides making contradictory claims. Pakistan claims that it killed more than 200 Taliban fighters, while it had lost 12 Pakistani soldiers. However, the Taliban contradicted this, reporting that it had killed 55 Pakistani soldiers while losing only 13 of its fighters.
Pakistan and Afghanistan have had a troubled relationship for decades. The crisis centers on security accusations and militant violence along the disputed Durand Line border. Afghanistan has never fully accepted this border, and that disagreement continues to fuel tension between the two countries. This became even more complicated in 2021 when the Taliban returned to power after overthrowing the Afghan government. Pakistan accused Afghanistan's Taliban government of allowing militant organization Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP to operate from Afghan soil. Islamabad said TTP fighters plan and launch attacks inside Pakistan from safe havens across the border. Despite the rising tensions, the two countries agreed to a ceasefire last year following peace talks held in Doha. But there were occasional cross-border incidents and accusations from both sides. So what exactly happened last night? Pakistan launched a major military offensive under Operation Ghazab-ul-Haq against Afghanistan sometime between the late hours of Thursday and the early hours of today, after months of clashing intermittently over allegations of providing safe haven to groups who Islamabad says attacked them. Pakistan said the operation against the Afghan Taliban was launched after unprovoked firing from across the border. Fighter jets struck the major Afghan cities of Kabul, Kandahar and Paktika after Taliban forces launched attacks along the Durand line. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khawaja M. Asif declared open war on the Afghan Taliban government. He wrote, quote-unquote, Pakistan made every effort to keep the situation normal through direct means and through friendly countries. It engaged in full-fledged diplomacy. Our cup of patience has overflowed. Now it is open war between us and you. Pakistan's President Asif Ali Zardari commended his country's response against the Afghan Taliban attacks. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said the country's forces have the full capability to crush any aggressive ambitions and that the entire nation stands by the Pakistani armed forces. An Afghanistan government spokesman said his government wants dialogue with Pakistan to resolve the ongoing fighting. He said if Pakistan continues the war, Afghan forces have the ability to take decisive action against it. Last week, Pakistan carried out multiple overnight airstrikes on Afghanistan, which the Taliban said killed at least 18 people, including women and children. Islamabad confirmed the attacks targeted 7 alleged militant camps and hideouts near the Pakistan-Afghanistan border and said they were launched following recent suicide bombings in Pakistan. Kabul, meanwhile, said civilian homes and a religious school had been targeted, with women and children among the dead. The head of the UN as well as a number of world leaders commented on the clash that broke out overnight. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged both nations to adhere strictly to their obligations under international law, with a specific emphasis on international humanitarian law. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk appealed for dialogue between Afghanistan and Pakistan amid border clashes and deadly airstrikes. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a statement that Iran is ready to help facilitate dialogue between Pakistan and Afghanistan. India's Foreign Ministry said India strongly condemns Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghan territory. China's Foreign Ministry said China is deeply concerned about the escalating tensions, calling on both sides to settle differences and disputes through dialogue and negotiation.
Now, Newsfirst's Juad Abdin spoke exclusively with Muzammal Suharwadi, a prominent journalist from Delhi, Pakistan, to discuss the latest developments and the current situation in Pakistan.
So now, we do know that the situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan is gaining attention around the world. At the moment, we do know that there have been clashes between the two countries, and in the recent past, it has been intensifying. And well, to discuss this with me, I have Muzammal Suharwadi reporting to us from Pakistan. Muzammal, what is the current situation in Pakistan? What is the latest that we can get from you?
Well, the latest is that there is no ceasefire. The latest is that the clashes are on. The latest is that there were airstrikes from Pakistan last evening, the whole night. The latest is that there are claims from both sides of the military gains, but the clashes on the borders are already there. It's a long border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So there is no ceasefire. The clashes are on. Pakistan says it has captured some 15 posts. The Afghans claim so, but there are no verifiable claims of both sides. Both militaries are saying that they have achieved something, but the end result is that the war is on.
And in terms of public response, especially with an open war being declared, how is the public response in Pakistan? Are the general public against this, or have they showed any signs of agreement to this?
The public pulse is in favor of this war because they feel there is lots of terrorism in Pakistan from Afghanistan, and to have a better peace in Pakistan, the terrorism should end. And that terrorism, the end of that terrorism needs that Pakistan should take on Afghanistan head on so that the terrorism in Afghanistan could end.
The Anuradhapura district organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Tissa Kuttiarachchi, said that it is the government's responsibility to investigate any officer who may have been involved in these attacks, regardless of their reputation. He made this remark while commenting on the arrest of former State Intelligence Service Chief, retired Major General Suresh Sale, in connection with the Easter attacks investigation.
No matter whether an officer is good or bad, if they have any link or connection to this incident, it is the government's responsibility to investigate the matter and uncover the truth. We won't interfere in any way, not even in the case of Suresh Sale. Next time, Tissa Kutti can be summoned as a witness. Even Namal Rajapaksa can be summoned. If we are called, we should go. If there's anything we know, we should reveal it. If we don't, we will say so. The authorities can summon witnesses and make arrests as needed. The government must reveal who the real mastermind is. We are waiting.
Vimal Veeravansa expressed the following remarks during a media briefing held today.
Suresh Sale played an immense role during the war. He subtly extracted key intelligence from a close aide of Tamil Shelvam. That information led to the Air Force conducting a successful strike on their target. Not one but two strikes. How was Sale aware of this information? Because Sale or someone from his intelligence unit have maintained correspondence with an LTTE informant. Does that mean Sale is also an LTTE member? Even Zaharan and his group were used at that time to gather ground intelligence related to the LTTE. That is what an intelligence service does. You might have seen during the COVID-19 pandemic how the military tracked how the virus spread through various people. They even uncovered certain extramarital affairs because of that tracking. How did they track it like that? They applied the same intelligence tactics used during the war in the pandemic. That didn't happen anywhere else in the world. Next, their ultimate target is Gotabaya Rajapaksa. They're trying to use Sale as a stepping stone to get to him. It is complete work of fiction. According to them, Gotabaya Rajapaksa is a hardcore Sinhala Buddhist, right? Would Zaharan and his group sacrifice their lives just to make an extreme Sinhala Buddhist the president? What kind of monkey business is this?
Deputy General Secretary of the Samaki Janabalawekya, Mujibur Rahman, says that the mastermind behind the Easter Sunday attacks must now be revealed.
Those who testified against that intelligence chief at the Presidential Commission have made various allegations against him. The Secretary to the Ministry of Law and Order has also testified against him. It has also been revealed that a person named Asad Maulana, who was a secretary of Pilian, also had dealings with this intelligence chief and Zaharan. And now, after a year and a half, the government has arrested him. There are some people involved in this matter with Zaharan's group. We are also hoping that those people will be identified through these investigations. Let's see how the government acts in this regard.
This was the explanation given by Minister Anil Jayanta Fernando.
You can see that these investigations aren't the only ones happening within the government. All of them are moving forward as they should.
ඉතින් මේ නීති කටයුතු අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීම අදාළ පරීක්ෂණ සිදු කරන ඒවාල ප්‍රතිඵල විදියට වෙනවා වෙන්නට ඕනේ.
On one hand, some say that there are no investigations. Then, when investigations happen, they accuse us of trying to get revenge. They say the economy is collapsing. When it grows, they claim something else. They even predict the government will fall in January, and when it doesn't, they shift it to February. So when I look at all this, I don't need to respond. Just go back and check what those same people have said in the past. Have any of their statements turned out to be true? Not a single one.
එකක්වත් සත්‍ය බවට පත් වෙලා නැහැ.
News First with the people.
In another headline-making story this evening, the project report of the reconstruction of 200 schools was handed over to Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya at the Ministry of Education today. The schools were renovated under the LOLC Divisavya You, Me, Our Nation social welfare program.
200 schools damaged by Cyclone Ditwa were rebuilt in just 37 days under the second phase of the LOLC Divisavya You, Me, Our Nation social welfare program. The event was attended by the Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Nalaka Kaluava, Group CEO of LOLC Holdings, Kapila Jayawardena, its Chief Operating Officer, Kitsiri Gunawardena, and CEO of MTV Channel Private Limited, Yasarat Kamalsiri, among others.
As the Sirasa Media Network, the biggest challenge we undertook, especially when looking back over the past decade, was to renovate 200 such schools within the span of a single month. This initiative will not end here. We have already made arrangements to distribute the necessary school books to 2,000 children affected by the disaster during the first week of March. We have already made arrangements to distribute the necessary school books to 2,000 children affected by the disaster during the first week of March.
අවශ්‍ය පොත්පත් බෙදා දීම මේ වෙනකොට කටයුතු සූදානම් කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ පාසල් 200ට අමතරව සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම විනාශ වෙච්ච පාසල්.
In addition to these 200 schools, work is already underway based on National Building Research Organization reports regarding a number of schools that were completely destroyed. We are committed to fully rebuilding a significant number of these schools from the ground up and restoring them to the nation, the Department of Education and to our children. These efforts will be carried forward under the third phase of the Divisavya program.
තුන්වෙනි අධියර මේ දිවිසවිය වැඩමුළුවේ තුලදී මේ පාසල් 200ක් මෙවැනි කෙටි කාලයක් තුලදී මේ විදිහට අලුත් වැඩියා කිරීම ඇත්තට මමත්
The renovation of 200 schools within such a short period is truly remarkable. In fact, even I wondered how this was accomplished by harnessing the strength available at the grassroots level together with the capacity of the LOLC group. You were able to achieve this in an exceptionally short time. As a government and as a country, this is of immense significance to us, a valuable service rendered to the nation.
There is only one thing I wish to say. Thank you very much. This has been a tremendous support to us. For the first time, the entire country had to face this disaster simultaneously. Although the severity varied, all 25 districts were affected. One of the main reasons we were able to respond in this manner and move forward without causing major disruptions to academic schedules was the way our country collectively faced this disaster and the cooperation extended by everyone.
The Prime Minister expressed her gratitude to LOLC Holdings and to the Maharaja Media Network for their contribution to the construction of these 200 schools, commending their dedicated service toward the betterment of future generations.
A special celebration and dinner reception organized by the Sri Lanka-India Society to commemorate the 77th Republic Day of India and the 78th Independence Day of Sri Lanka was held in Colombo yesterday. A special celebration and dinner reception organized by the Sri Lanka-India Society to mark the 77th Republic Day of India and the 78th Independence Day of Sri Lanka was held in Colombo yesterday, highlighting the growing partnership between the two neighboring nations. During the ceremony, the Sri Lanka-India Society officially launched its magazine and presented the book Port of Call to Prime Minister Harini Amarasuriya and Santosh Jha, the Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister Amarasuriya said the Sri Lanka-India partnership now spans multiple sectors, including economic development, energy, connectivity, trade and investment, digital transformation, health, education, maritime security and people-to-people engagement.
Today, Sri Lanka-India partnership extends across multiple sectors, including economic development, energy, connectivity, trade and investment, digital transformation, health, in education, maritime security, and people-to-people engagement. And we are really pleased to see the tourism ties improving and developing so well. As we were particularly really delighted at the India-Pakistan cricket match and to see the celebrations, and the joy that event brought to all cricket lovers in South Asia. I think that was also a very, very special moment, and we were honored to have been able to host both the teams. So as Sri Lanka continues on its path from recovery to a more resilient and sustainable future, we welcome increased connections and investment from Indian businesses and greater tourism flows from India as well. And we know that this will grow and prosper and continue to strengthen our economic and cultural ties.
Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Santosh Jha said that India has emerged as Sri Lanka's most trusted partner.
We have also, I think, seen India emerge as Sri Lanka's most trusted partner. India last year emerged for the first time as the second largest destination for Sri Lankan exports. Our investment relationship is also quite remarkable. Last year, more than 50% of the investment that came to Sri Lanka came from India or were routed through third countries, but originally were from the Indian companies. And if you look at, of course, the tourism that we have seen in the last year, the record numbers and the largest number naturally are from India.
The event brought together diplomats, senior government officials and distinguished guests to celebrate the long-standing ties between Sri Lanka and India.
In more local news, the Deshabandhu Dr. C.G. Uragoda oration was held yesterday in Colombo.
Deshabandhu Dr. C.G. Uragoda Oration is a prestigious annual lecture organized by the Sri Lanka Medical Association to honor the history and contributions of medicine in Sri Lanka, delivered every year on the 26th of February to mark the SLMA's founding anniversary. The latest oration was held yesterday.
I'm sure that you would agree with me that we have had a tradition of institutional maturation and international engagement that was a continuous process that has contributed to Sri Lanka's high global standing in medicine. And as I said, it's intertwined. Education, the profession, and the regulatory oversight. They are connected with each other. A legacy that all of us can be proud of. Now you may ask, how has it translated to patient care? This slide summarizes it all, comparing Sri Lanka's health indicator to that of the richest country in the world, the USA. No difference. Hardly any difference. We can all be proud of that. The SLMA and the profession has always had the patients at heart. The Declaration on Health, published in 1995 and its second version in 2005, are testament to that. The profession, the civil society, the regulators, the Ministry of Health, and all of us got together and worked towards the Charter for ensuring patients' safety and well-being that was tabled in Parliament in the year 2024. And I hope that one day it will be converted to legislation. That will be the true stamp of approval that will define what healthcare in Sri Lanka ought to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can stand tall for what we have achieved collectively together, and we need to recognize that and showcase that to the entire world, and that is why I welcome the President's initiative on a conference of history of medicine of Sri Lanka, because we have a story like none other to tell.
In a rapidly modernizing Air Force, this is your opportunity to step inside the units that power its strength and precision. Prepared for every emergency, engineered with discipline and innovation. This is the force behind the Sri Lanka Air Force. This is the 5th mission of Sri Lanka's Sky Warriors.
Fire emergencies are an increasingly common reality across the country. Responding to these situations is yet another specialized service carried out by the Sri Lanka Air Force. This is the Fire School and Fire Tender Maintenance Squadron located in Katunayaka. The production of uniforms for all ranks of the Sri Lanka Air Force is undertaken by the tailoring sections of the Sri Lanka Air Force based at the camps in Sigiriya and Hingaragoda.
ඊළඟුමක් ඉතාමත් ආරක්ෂිතව නිර්මාණය කිරීමේ වගකීම අපිට තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම අඩු පිරිවැයකින් ඉහළ ගුණාත්මකතාවයෙන් යුතු නිල ඇඳුම් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගුවන් හමුදාවේ අවශ්‍යතාවය මත නිර්මාණය කිරීම මෙහිදී සිදු වෙනවා.
මගේ සේවා කාලය අවුරුදු 16ක්. ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගුවන් හමුදාවේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් අපි ඉෂ්ට කරන්න අපේ මේ සියලුම සේවක සේවිකාවන් බැඳිලා ඉන්නවා.
Safeguarding the nation's skies demands advanced technological strength. The maintenance and research of the country's air radar systems are carried out by the Radar Maintenance Wing in Katunayaka. Meanwhile, the responsibility of repairing and maintenance of aircraft rests with the Aircraft Engineering Wing of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
දැනට අපි මීට පෙර විදේශ රටවලින් ලබාගත් සේවාවන් අප විසින්ම මේ පක්ෂාංගය තුල කිරීම දක්වා වැඩි දියුණු කරගෙන තිබෙනවා. එයින් විශේෂ මුදල් රාශියක් රටට ඉතුරු කරන්න අපට හැකියාව ලැබිලා තියෙනවා.
From the front lines of fire and rescue to the stitching of the uniform to the precision of radar surveillance and aircraft engineering, the Sri Lanka Air Force stands not only as a guardian of the skies but as a force of discipline, innovation and national service.
Sri Lankan Sky Warriors.
Suranga Jayalath, the Group Director Legal of the Capital Maharaja Group, was elected as President of the Association of Corporate Lawyers, Sri Lanka.
The annual general meeting of the Association of Corporate Lawyers Sri Lanka got underway in Colombo earlier this evening. The event saw the election of office bearers for the year 2026-2027. Suranga Jayalath, Group Director Legal of the Capital Maharaja Group, was elected as President of the Association of Corporate Lawyers Sri Lanka. He serves on the main board of directors of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited and is a member of the Asia Pacific Users Council of the London Court of International Arbitration or LCIA. Melody S. Vikramanayaka, who serves as Executive Vice President Legal and Chief Legal Officer of Hatton National Bank PLC, was re-elected as Vice President along with Rangika Kundaramage from the University of Colombo. Ruandi Tantrige from Lion Brewery was elected as Secretary, whilst Asda Piris from Renuka Agro Group was appointed Assistant Secretary. Rajika Lewis, partner at Julius & Creasy, was elected as Treasurer, and Viveka Anthony from Ansel Group elected as Assistant Treasurer.
The annual Ananda Nalanda Battle of the Maroons cricket encounter kicked off today at the SSC grounds in Colombo.
This year marks the 96th edition of the Ananda Nalanda Battle of the Maroons, one of Sri Lanka's most prestigious inter-school cricket events. Winning the toss and opting to bat first, Ananda College finished the day at 325 for 5 with opener Nethula Edirimana emerging as the star performer, scoring 150 runs, including 13 fours and 6 sixes. Ovin Pereira added a valuable 53 runs to the total. The innings was opened by Danidu Sella Peruma under the captaincy of Kitma Vidana Patirana, while Osanda Pamudita led the Nalanda College side. The official electronic media partner for the match is the Maharaja Media Network.
And that's a wrap of your primetime news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Take care, good night, and God bless you.